Alright, if my other video, my intro to my BFS setups video brought you here, this is the setup number 1. I'm going to start from the most finesse and going up to, I guess, the ones with more power. So this one I've talked about quite a bit. This is the Aldebaran BFS with my 16 Aldebaran 15 spool from Avail. So it's how it's labeled is 16 ALD 15 R, and the 15 is, the 16 is the year of the reel, so it's a 16 Aldebaran. That's what the L comes from as well. And then the 15 is the 1.5 millimeter depth on the spool. And the rod I have it on, I've reviewed this rod quite a bit, is the TSURINOYA 4'7" 2-piece extra ultralight. It's whippy. It's for sure. Like, I don't know if you can see that, but this is actually the setup I've been using in a lot of my trout videos. So I'll have those links below. You can kind of see the rod in action and what it's capable of. I'll straight up say right now, let's start with one of the cons, which it's to be expected. The power. I mean, if you're trying to, if you're in like situations where you got to kind of flip fish over brush and stuff like that, if your fish is bigger than 7 inches, like for a trout, I'd say get a heavier rod for sure. But overall, this is really fun, especially if you fish like, say, headwater trout creeks. You got a lot of the smaller brook trout and stuff like that. This rod is so much fun for that. And like that flexible tip on there, you can just zip lures wherever you want. It's so accurate. Comfortable too. It's super lightweight. Like, it palms really well with the Aldebaran. It's one-handed. That's all you need, which is a huge advantage, I think, if you're up where I live with all the brush. Versus using a spinning reel. All my controls are in one hand. I can just zip it out there, reel it back in, zip it back out there without messing with your bail, and you can control your lures drop so much better. But I'm not going to go too much into like the actual pros of BFS. I'm just going to go over the actual setup. Another pro, especially with using this spool, like the Vail spool, is casting those lightweight lures. It's insane. Like, especially in those small trout areas where generally if you try to cast really light lures, your brakes don't really want to turn on with that slower spool speed. The FTB braking system Aldebaran has is really good with that. I'm usually a Daiwa guy, but this reel kind of turned me back onto Shimano. I have, I don't know, like, I think 6 Shimano reels now, which is unlike me a couple of years ago. But I highly suggest, even just the stock Aldebaran with just the stock spool is pretty capable. It's just not going to get you as low as like an aftermarket spool would, especially this one that weighs, I think it's just under 4 grams without a bearing, or right around 4 grams without a bearing, which is insane for sure. But that's what I use it for. My limitations, I've used it on bluegill as well, which granted it is fun in open water with it. If you're fishing around weeds and you're using like small little jigs, you might want to bump up a power because they can take you for a ride, which is fun. And if I used, you know what, if I used bigger than 2-pound nanofill, that's the line I usually use on here is 2-pound nanofill. If I had like, let's say even like a 3-pound braid with a leader, I'd be fine. Like, I'm not afraid of this rod breaking at all. It's solid carbon, so it has greater strength. And also that parabolic bend, it kind of cushions it too, so I'm not really worried about breaking it. But it is a limitation, which you just got to know. You're not going to bring a relatively light rod into a situation like that. Other than that, I mean, it's a great reel. I always bring it with me. I've kicked myself in the pants too many times where I go out bass fishing in the springtime, and it can be kind of slow sometimes, especially up where I live. It depends on when the ice comes out and stuff. But you see these little shark fins of bluegills like spawning, and you're like, I wish I would have brought an ultralight, or I wish I would have brought something with me. So I make sure I always have this in my truck in the summertime, always. But that's it for the lighter one. If you have any questions, which I imagine there will be, I know a lot of people like the extreme low end of BFS, but comment below. Also subscribe. You can see those other ones, and you can also see this this setup in action that come this spring.